Let's just dive right into this explainer. For a solid decade, climate advocate Ingmar Renshag has been right there on the front lines. But instead of feeling like we were actually winning, he had this totally terrifying realization. The absolute biggest threat to humanity, it isn't just carbon dioxide. It's actually a story we keep telling ourselves. So today, we're unpacking his incredibly powerful manifesto to figure out exactly how societies deceive themselves, the literally deadly consequences of that deception, and, crucially, what the data says we can actually do about it right now. So ask yourself, what is the biggest lie ever told? I mean, your mind probably jumps straight to those fringe internet conspiracies, right? Or maybe massive historical cover-ups. But Renshag makes this fascinating argument. He says the truly destructive lies, they aren't being shouted by extremists wearing tinfoil hats. Not at all. They're actually spoken very calmly, in respectable boardrooms, by very reasonable people. They are the lies that just quietly become accepted as everyday conventional wisdom. And it really comes down to just 4 simple words. We have more time. Now, why on earth is this specific 4-word lie the most dangerous thing governing our world today? Well, it's simple, really, because it's exactly what we all want to hear. It serves this brilliant dual purpose. For politicians, it's a psychological permission slip. It lets them sign these grand climate treaties for the year 2050 while doing absolutely zero today, all while still looking like saviors. And for the rest of us, it just lets us sleep peacefully at night. It creates this incredibly comfortable illusion that this is a problem for tomorrow rather than an absolute emergency for right now. Now, you might think outright climate deniers are the main problem, but honestly, they're mostly just a loud distraction. They only make up about 15% of the American public today anyway. The real danger, it's what we call institutional delay. We're talking about those respectable CEOs and world leaders who publicly applaud climate science, but then quietly push the actual solutions to some constantly moving target decade. The absolute biggest lies are never enforced. They are just hosted by our institutions simply because they're comfortable. And look, we have seen this exact playbook before, haven't we? Think back to the tobacco industry in the 1950s. They knew all about the cancer risks, but they manufactured doubt to buy themselves decades of time. And the cost? Tens of millions of lives. The lead industry did the exact same thing starting way back in the 1920s. To put that in perspective, since lead was finally banned, we now save 1.2 million lives every single year. And Chernobyl? The fallout was literally decided by delayed whispered truths. In every single one of these cases, the facts were known early on, but the institutions chose to host a comfortable lie just to protect the status quo. But here is exactly why this climate lie is just exponentially worse. First off, it targets literally everyone, and physics doesn't take a coffee break. Unlike the tobacco lie, which mostly targeted smokers, this 4-word deception targets every single human alive today and every generation yet to be born. The heat just keeps permanently locking in, compounding continuously. But maybe the most tragic part of this whole shebang is how easily it recruits decent people. You don't have to be some corrupt cartoon villain to host this lie. You just have to be a parent or a community leader who prefers offering a bearable, comforting message over a totally terrifying truth. Let's trace how this delay actually compounds over time. All the way back in 1977, Exxon's own internal models were already accurately predicting global warming. Flash forward through literally decades of us telling ourselves we have more time, and well, the bill is finally coming due. In 2024, the world experienced its first full calendar year, exceeding that critical 1.5 degrees Celsius limit above pre-industrial levels. And then, by June 2026, this massive, record-breaking heat wave just swept across Western Europe. It showed us, in real time, exactly what the end result of all that institutional delay looks like. 10,650 excess deaths. That happened in a single week in Western Europe. Let that sink in for a second. These aren't some vague projections for the year 2100. These were real people living in one of the richest, best-prepared regions on the entire planet. This staggering number is the immediate, very real, deadly cost of those 4 little words. The catastrophe isn't starting tomorrow, folks. It's claiming thousands of lives right now. And get this, here is the real kicker. While people were literally dying from the heat during that period, Renshag documented that lawmakers actually rolled back 45 different climate policies across 15 jurisdictions in just 1 year. Think about that. You don't weaken carbon markets and reopen Arctic oil blocks if you actually believe you're out of time, right? Every single one of those policy reversals, it's a tangible, real-world manifestation of the belief that we still have more time. That lie is actively being written into our laws. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this risk, let's look at some history. World War II was the deadliest event in human history, right? About 85 million casualties. Now, look at the math from professional actuaries today. At just 2 degrees of warming, they price the catastrophic risk to human life at 2 billion. 2 billion. At 3 degrees, that risk jumps to roughly 4 billion, which is essentially half of everyone currently alive on Earth. We are way past dealing with worst-case scenarios. This is literally the road we are actively driving down right now. You might be wondering, why are the numbers we hear so drastically different? Well, it's because the IPCC gives us this absolute, highly conservative floor. Their numbers basically assume society will just continue to function perfectly despite the changes. Actuaries, on the other hand, they put real money on the line. Their entire job is to calculate the domino effect. A heat wave causes a massive crop failure, which triggers a food crisis, which then sparks migration and war. Politicians weaponize those conservative IPCC numbers just to keep us comfortable, which basically turns scientific caution into a dangerous permission slip to do nothing. Let's bring this macroplanetary data down to a deeply personal level. Imagine this. Your child's school has a toxic gas leak. The principal knows, the teachers know, but instead of, evacuating the building, they just send home a cheerful little newsletter saying, hey, don't worry, there's plenty of time, the kids will be totally fine. You would be absolutely furious. You'd never, ever call that caution. And yet, that is exactly how global leaders are treating our planet right now. They are deliberately choosing to comfort us rather than actually fixing the leak. But here's where things get really twisty. Just as we have more time becomes totally, undeniably impossible to believe anymore, it seamlessly gets replaced by its evil twin, lie number 2. It's too late. It's the perfect pivot. Instead of acknowledging the massive, screaming urgency to act right now, this new lie tells us to just throw our hands up and surrender. And guess what? Both of these lies achieve the exact same outcome, doing absolutely nothing and keeping those fossil fuels flowing. And look, this isn't just some fringe doom scrolling on social media. Major, highly respected publications, like The Telegraph, are literally running columns arguing that we've already lost the war and should just go ahead and scrap our net zero targets. This surrender narrative is the shiny new permission slip to stall for yet another decade. Framing surrender as logical public policy risks stalling our momentum just as effectively as the first lie ever did. So what's the actual reality here? Rinshog points out a truth right in the middle that is harsh, yes, but also incredibly hopeful. Sure, 40 years of delay means it is too late to avoid all the damage. The hotter summers, the dangerous storms, they're already here. But, and this is a massive but, it is absolutely not too late to save tens of millions of lives. The gap between the road we are currently on and total systemic collapse is entirely dependent on the decisions we make today. Every single tenth of a degree we fight for actually matters. It's not fate, it's a choice. And you know what? The financial markets completely agree. Get this. Right now, the world is pouring $2 into clean energy for every single dollar going into fossil fuels. We aren't just sitting around waiting on some magical sci-fi miracle technology to come save the day. The money is already moving. The economic gears have fundamentally shifted, and this transition is highly visible, real, and backed up by incredibly strong economic data. The machine isn't just built, it is up and running, folks. Solar power literally just broke historical records, delivering the largest annual generation increase in history. Out on the roads, 1 in every 4 new cars sold globally is now electric. That's huge. This transition isn't some futuristic pipe dream. It is actively, aggressively pushing out the old, dirty systems as we speak. But, and we really can't stress this enough, we are in a desperate race for speed. Let's look at the math. The data shows that for every 4,400 tons of carbon dioxide we emit, 1 human life is lost to heat this century. Now, consider that humanity emits about 100 million tons every single day. That means every single day we delay, we are effectively borrowing more than 20,000 lives from the future. The transition isn't waiting for permission. It is desperately waiting for us to speed up. So when you strip away all the noisy politics, the rhetoric, and those comforting little newsletters, you are left with one incredibly simple equation. Delay kills, speed saves. If we continue to accept the lie that we have more time, that delay literally kills thousands. But if we accelerate this transition today, right now, we measure our success in actual human lives saved. Every single day counts, in both directions. So, I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative question. The next time a politician or a CEO or anyone really tells you not to panic, that we shouldn't rush, and that we have more time, I want you to ask them, time until what exactly?
Are we just waiting until those actuaries' worst-case scenarios become our daily reality? It's time to stop hosting the lie. We do not have more time.